kind of made it a tradition to barbecue at least once in the dead of winter, because it's kind of like giving the middle finger to old man winter and just saying, you know what? No, I'm gonna barbecue up a steak and pretend it's summer right now.
This is Lars Walker. You're listening to All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.
Hello and welcome back to All Over the Place. I'm your host, Eric Porvoznik, and we are where the fun sanity never ends. We are the official podcast of Media Pub Live, and we are inviting Jim Culver back to the stage. Hello, Jim.
Hey, how you doing?
Awesome. Even though I'm dressed a little bit cooler than you, but we're not cool, but for warmer weather. But we'll get into that in just a second, folks, because we got to invite Captain Cool himself up there, remote from Havasu. Marty Zamora, how are you?
Doing great. Coming to you live from Lake Havasu. Holy smokes, that's a garbage truck.
Perfect timing.
Good timing there.
I do love
it.
It's
a beautiful sunny winter day here in Lake Havasu. Paradise.
Well, folks, if you haven't already figured out from the backdrop and little hints we've been dropping here, this week's Threefer is Winter Wonders, as the season is in mid-form right now. We're about a month removed away from the winter solstice, the beginning of a season that some of us, we modify our lifestyles to accommodate a slightly warmer living. But grew up in shivery temperatures and snowy climes, but we're going to be talking about what we love about winter, the winter season. And our plus one will be the one thing that, it's like, nope, don't need it in my life. And it is quite the opposite of a winter wonder. But we're going to get started with the Threefer with the man who is probably in the warmest climate for us right now. Marty, why don't you go and start us off your Threefer? And what do you love about the winter?
All right. Well, greetings from the London Bridge in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. As you can see, it's sunny and beautiful. And I will start off my number 3, and it's a pretty good one. The days are not hot here in Havasu. Now, I share time back and forth, Havasu and here and Southern California, but here in the summer months, oh my, 120 is normal. Do that for several months. My favorite thing is we hit about October and the weather is perfect for forever, for many, many months. As you can see, it's a beautiful day here. A little breezy, but really awesome. But I love getting away from the super, super heated oven of Arizona. And that is why I love winter. Number 3, anyway.
Well, as mentioned a little bit ago, I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in cold and shivery, and I'll get to the reasons why the one big reason I'm not a fan of living in the Midwest anymore this time of year. But snow is voluntary, like Marty just said. So it's we made this choice, and we put up with 115, 120 for those of us who are on baseball fields umpiring or playing in the summertime. Sometimes get up to 140, 150 on those artificial or field turf fields. We put up with that for now because basically, November through May, middle of May, it's gorgeous. You're topping out maybe at 80, and it just feels good. As Jim is seething inside of both of us right now, Marty. So we'll go to Jim and we'll find out what he does, what he loves about winter.
Yeah, it's about 20 degrees up here in the Pacific Northwest. So, as Barney Stinson would say, snowsuit up. So I'm bundled up for the weather.
By the way, beauty toque.
Indeed. Appreciate that. This may or may not be hot chocolate. But appropriate for the weather here. But let me start off my list by saying, winter, as most people think of it, wasn't really a part of my childhood. I grew up in Central California. I think out of the 18 years I lived there, I only had one day of snow in that whole 18 years. And believe me, that day I felt like I was in a simulation and it glitched out. It was very strange. But after that, I moved to Spokane, which anybody who knows that area knows that the winters are brutal. So that was quite a change, and I learned about winter really quick that way and learned to adapt. But because it wasn't really a part of my childhood, a lot of the things we associate with winter, like making snowmen, and, sledding, all that kind of stuff, doesn't really have any nostalgic factor. So for me, my list is more about just kind of how I cope with the winter, how I deal with it, some of the things I do to make it a little more fun, a little more manageable, that kind of thing. So that said, for my number three, this kind of cold weather really makes me appreciate certain hot foods more than I would in a place that's always warm. You get kind of a special appreciation for certain things. Like a bowl of chili that tastes amazing on a snowy day. I've kind of made it a tradition to barbecue at least once in the dead of winter, because it's kind of like giving the middle finger to old man winter and just saying, you know what? No, I'm gonna barbecue up a steak and pretend it's summer right now. But for my official number three, there is a certain meal that my wife makes. Made it every winter, and it's kind of become a tradition in our house to have it in the winter. It's a chicken taco soup. She makes in a slow cooker. Absolutely delicious. She covers it in pico de gallo, sour cream, cheese, all kinds of good stuff. We eat it with tortilla chips, and it tends to last for at least a week after for leftovers, which never get old. And so it just became kind of a tradition in our house, and a way to kind of beat the heat and enjoy, or excuse me, not beat the heat, beat the cold, and warm up and just enjoy winter a little bit more. So I think anybody who goes through a cold period will have those kind of warm food traditions, but that is ours, and that's my number three.
I like it. Chili most definitely tastes better in the wintertime, no doubt about it. And instead of beat the heat, which of course you've got your little rhyming pattern there, I think we go with conquer the cold.
Conquer the cold. I like it.
I'm an assimilation kind of guy. I think we've figured that out by now with me on this.
And that's the beauty of a hat you got as well, sir.
And there you go. Just quickly with me, this gives me an excuse when it gets a little chilly outside to put my ushanka on, my little rabbit fur Russian cap here. So yeah, I do love the ushanka. My number three for my what I love about the winter is I'm going to go with I'm going to get nostalgic right now, because I love sledding or tobogganing or whatever one you want to use to go down the hills. And I've mentioned before on the show that the best hills in Ohio are on the golf course. And in Toledo, Ohio, we had a nice hill outside of our the high school, Sylvania Northview, great hill, but you had to slow down at the end of it. Otherwise, you would go into a very frozen creek. Well, if it was frozen over, you'd be lucky if it was frozen over, because it wasn't. It was cold. And around the corner behind our church over there at St. Joe's, over there on Main Street, there was a hill which had, it was called Suicide Hill for a reason. There was a big indent that if you didn't clear it, you went into it and bam, you just came back hard. And so you had to make sure that you were on your toes there with your sled. Definitely did not want to toboggan over that one. That's toboggans will weigh you down, but a sled will get you across. That is my number three for what I love about winter: sledding.
Awesome. That actually led me to my question I was going to ask is how bad have you wiped out doing that?
Yeah, you lose count, especially on Suicide Hill. But man, it's
how close was that to your house?
A Suicide Hill. It was walking distance. Walking distance there, and then occasionally just limping home. And you walk in, and mom's like, "What happened?" Just one wipeout too many. But it was the 70s. Well, actually, by that point, it was the 80s. You pick yourself up. You rub snow on it. You don't rub dirt on it in the wintertime. Obviously, you rub snow on it. Get back in the house. You warm up. All good.
That sounds
a quick side note there to go with the ushanka. Of course, you had your. I didn't get one of these later in life, but wearing a hat with your earmuffs on, always fun in the winter time. Love it, and yet because I do love to say the word muff. Anyhow, but another thing I loved, a trick you learn as a kid: you put your before you put your socks on, and then you put sandwich bags. and you put that over your feet. Then you put your boots on. It helps insulate with when you accidentally did fall into the creek and you got a little wet. Those sandwich bags would help a little bit, keep you drier.
Yep.
MacGyver for kids.
Tips for the winter from a guy who has not lived in a winter climate, a true winter climate, since 1996. I'll let somebody else do the math on that one. Almost 30 years, it looks like. So, but Marty, back over to you for your second pick for what you love about winter. Southern California, that you are.
And I'm very jealous, although you paid the price by living in it. You're able to just go right down the streets and go hit the slopes, hit the sled. And our parents, when I was a kid, our parents had to take us up there. But you know, my parents were pretty good about it. They would take me a couple times up and go into the snow, because in Southern California, it was right there. It was we never had snow on our driveway, but the snow was just right there. 40 minutes away, you'd be in the snow. So that was always nice. My number two, and it will be, I'm sure, loved by Eric and appreciated. It's football season. NFL and college football weather. I only see it on TV usually, but I've had a time or two where I went out and watched the game where there was snow and coldness. And man, I'll tell you what, I love football, and winter means football season. It is just, and now we have the college playoffs, so that extends it more, and it's just more football. I love it. It's the one thing that Texas has on us with high school football. They're ravenous about it, but tell you what, nothing better than a cold day.
Playoffs, you actually had southern teams or warmer weather climate teams coming to play. If the higher seed, you had a home game. For instance, Penn State got to host SMU. Ohio State got to host Tennessee. Tennessee, not a true warm weather climate. They understand snow a little bit, but not like Ohio does. But yeah, or the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field.
Yeah, I'm wondering. It just occurs to me: is Ohio State the coldest weather team out of those 12? Trying to think of who else was in that would have been colder.
Well, Notre Dame. Okay, it's all that whole Great Lakes thing. So you had Notre Dame right there off the shores of Lake, not far from the shores of Lake Michigan. Ohio State, Penn State in Happy Valley gets a little shivery there in the wintertime. Trying to think who else. Well, Indiana was in the playoffs, so same climate as Notre Dame.
I have no frame of reference. Southern California, Central Arizona, Western Arizona, Southern California. That's it for me. That's where I've lived. And,
Oregon
very happy
also understands inclement weather, so it's not always warm in the fall season up there. So, but they got bounced by Ohio State.
Ohio winters are a little rougher than Oregon winters.
Even Northern California, the winters can be pretty brutal.
Yeah, Northern.
Yeah,
California. Northern Arizona is basically just like Pennsylvania or Colorado. Colorado is Pennsylvania on steroids, and Northern Arizona is very similar to Colorado. So, yeah.
So, yes, I love the football, and when it's cold, I know it's football season.
Uh-huh. Fall for me, but yes, once it gets a little too cold. Although there were some fun Penn State games where we got to throw some snowballs in the stands. And woe the person who threw a snowball at Joe Paterno. That person got their ass beat that day. But that's a story for another time. Because, Jim, we're going to go to you for your second pick.
For my second pick, so this is something that occasionally gets me looked at like a crazy person, but I have but what I like to do in the winter, especially when it gets really cold and snowy here, which is about 2 weeks out of the year, but still it gets pretty bad. I have a warm weather music playlist I like to blast and listen to it as much as I can. And I like to just close my eyes, pretend I'm in Hawaii, and just soak up those tunes, and it warms me up every time. So, I've got some Jimmy Buffett on there, got some Beach Boys on there, some yacht rock. Even though I've never been on a yacht, I still feel qualified to listen to yacht rock. The Replacements, or excuse me, not the Replacements, the Refreshments.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a great one.
No, I did not bring that up or prompt it. I did not. Jim,
how much did he give you? Jim,
I still
how much
blame
did
you
he
for
give
bringing
you?
it up so much. I think it's been stuck in my head. So it's still your fault. But yeah, refreshments are great. Is the Hawaiian guy who sings?
Yeah, brother is.
Yeah, brother is. Yeah. So got a lot of that stuff. Anything that sounds like Jamaica, I'm into it. And I just kind of enjoy that. It helps me kind of beat the winter blues. Probably my favorite song on the list that I listen to in the winter is "Boat Drinks" by Jimmy Buffett, which is actually about a guy going insane during the winter and wanting to get away and get somewhere warm. So relatable. But yeah, just a lot of fun to listen to, and just kind of helps me beat those cold days. So.
And
Yeah,
now we'll have an excuse, folks, to make a winter. We'll have a Jim's winter playlist. The week this
there you go.
And it may or may not have a song by this band on it. Probably not.
Probably not.
So, Jim, that reminds me of an episode of MASH, actually two, but one in particular. It's freezing cold. They're in Korea, and they're singing, having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave, to try and get that psychological warmth.
Mm-hmm.
And, they also had the other side of that. They were singing White Christmas when it was, 100 degrees and 100% humidity.
Right.
But that mind fuck you do yourself. Please make me believe.
The power of music, it just puts you in the right mindset,
I love it. I love it. And I would hope there might be some Cars on there too. I think and Van Halen, two ultimate summertime bands for me. Maybe.
Yes. Absolutely. A little bit of Van Halen on there.
Can never go wrong with Van Halen. We've learned that time and time again on this show. Well, my number two, I have taken off the Ushanka. I've slipped into. I like wearing sweaters in the wintertime. There's just something. But the main reason for it is you get to cozy up by the fire, and this is I get nostalgic about wintertime because I don't live in it anymore, so I have to get nostalgic. But as an adult, you put a sweater on, you get some whiskey, you just get some hot cocoa with a little bit of whiskey in it, and you get your honey and you sit by a fire. And you just kick back and enjoy wintertime. Staying warm with your honey, cozying up by the fire in a sweater. That's my number two.
I like it. Some of the houses I've had fireplaces even when they didn't need them, and we would turn the heater off and light the fireplace just to enjoy the ambiance.
Love a good time by the fire with preferably with whiskey. And on a whiskey note, we're going to shift it back to Marty for his numero uno thing he loves
Everything's
most
better with
about the winter. Everything's better with whiskey. You're damn right.
All right. Well, not to sound corny or corny is the best word. It's family, the holidays. This is the time where, for me, growing up, I got to see all of my cousins that I only saw a couple times a year. That was one of the times where we'd see them a bunch, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it was just fantastic. All my aunts and uncles, and we would all gather at my grandparents. It was just the best thing, and now I'm living it. Now I'm the peak of the pyramid there, and I have my kids and grandkids, and it's just I just love it so much, and just being around them and hanging out. We don't need an occasion, but when there is one, it's extra special. And then you get New Year's to go out with all your buddies and be close with them and bring in the new year with people you care about. So I like that about winter, that it's got 3 bangers of holidays there in a row, followed by womp 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 Valentine's Day. Not really a dude holiday. You're a dude, you're tolerating it.
Well, you see his T-shirt there. For those of you watching on YouTube, and I'll explain it there for you at you audio platform listeners. Marty, it's a rough and tumble shirt. It's got beer, motorcycle, guns, freedom. I don't know what a dilligaf is. You'll have to explain that one. But Marty's stuff.
Does it look like I give a F?
He's a family man. He's a sentimental guy when he needs to be.
So I kind of screwed the pooch there. I was going to give you a couple of honorable mentions, so I'll do that now. One of them is my friends and I used to like to go snow skiing, and then it evolved into snowboarding. And in Southern California, it looks like this, and you drive up the mountain, and there you are. And you can be up there in 40 minutes or so where I live, and you were doing your thing. So that was an honorable mention. I forgot to bring it up.
I will second that one because, and I'm going to give a shout out right now to my two nephews, Michael and Cole. Uncle Eric, when you coming home for Christmas? Well, I got a better idea. Why don't you come out here? And if you want snow, if you want your white Christmas, we'll drive an hour north to Payson. We'll drive a couple more hours over to Flagstaff. Snow is voluntary. We'll do your fun little wintertime things. You want to see your snow? We'll drive back down and put our shorts on the same day. That's the joy of Arizona. You guys get to come out here. That's what I say to the nephews. You visit me.
I agree with that.
Geographical diversity. You got to love it.
Right. Mix it up. Mix it up. All right. Well, accidental diversity there with Jim. We're going to shift up to him for his honorable mentions or easing into his number one pick for what he loves most about winter.
Okay. Well, before I get to my number one, I'm going to mention some honorable mentions. Some things that I've been able to enjoy since I moved up here and discovered and got to enjoy winter like everybody else. Snowball fights. We've had one every winter since my kid's been old enough to stand. He's been old enough to throw snowballs at me, and he always does. And usually the neighbors' kids join in, and I get mobbed, but it's still a lot of fun. Hot chocolate, of course, is always a winner, but especially in the cold weather. Sledding. As a kid, I only did tobogganing, but I've gotten to sled a few times since I came up here, and it's an absolute blast. And also snowshoeing. I've been able to go up in the mountains and snowshoe a few times. I'm not big into winter sports, but snowshoeing is a lot of fun. If you guys ever get the chance, I highly recommend it. I
tried it once with tennis rackets. It didn't work. That was my
it does
not work.
It does not work. You got to do the real thing.
That's essentially just jogging in the snow, right?
Well, if you do it that way, yes. But it really is a lot of fun to strap on some snowshoes and go on some snowy trails and get to see some mountain views you would not see otherwise. It's pretty incredible. So highly recommended. So for my actual number one, I'm going to go with something that I never got to experience up until recently. 10, 15 years ago, but we obviously never had snow days when I was a kid, and never had them when I lived in Spokane because I was on campus and they expected you to walk in class even if you broke your neck on the way. So, but when I moved out here, snow days became a lot more common. Because one of the things about Western Washington, snow happens rarely enough that when it happens, people don't handle it great. So as soon as it gets snowy, they close the schools, and everybody who lives on a hill freaks out and says they can't possibly leave their house. They're just going to stay there and starve. And everything just kind of shuts down for a while. Hasn't happened as often recently because kind of in the post-COVID area, everybody's working from home. But one of many things COVID ruined. But it's been a pretty common thing that we've got to enjoy some snow days. And it just kind of feels like a nice vacation from everything because everything's kind of shut down. You can't really go out and do anything. But thankfully the power's still on, so you get to stay warm. And being a gamer, snow days are great when you're a gamer because it is a golden opportunity to stay home, and we all, in my family, we all play games together. So you can break out an old favorite or a new game that you've always wanted to play, and you can just lose yourself in it for hours and sip hot chocolate and just have a great time, just kind of hiding from the world for a little bit. So that's something I've really gotten to enjoy about winter, living here the last 10, 15 years. And if I ever move somewhere like Arizona, I'll miss it, but it's pretty great. So that's my number one.
We'll do what I said earlier. We'll just drive up to Flagstaff. I'll drive. We can alternate. I'll drive one time, you drive another, or Payson, whichever. We'll make it happen.
But see, that's the problem. If you can drive somewhere, it's not really a snow day. You can't make that excuse.
Yeah, I guess it's not
you're not doing it.
But it's an Arizona snow day because, again, it's voluntary snow.
Voluntary snow. I like it. We don't get that around here.
Arizona snow day. Yeah, I like that too. But people just drive poorly anyway here. Thank you. Thanks, Californians, for coming. So, all right. Well, before I hit my number one, I'm going to give a couple shout outs to some honorable mentions. First one being the Rankin Bass holiday specials, starting and or Christmas specials once you get in deeper into December. But you had Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and the Kris Kringle, the Island of Misfit Toys, all that fun stuff. Oh gosh, Frosty the Snowman, all that Rankin Bass stuff, and the stop motion things, and just so many great songs. And it's a great childhood thing that still you still watch them as an adult, and they're classics. So I gotta give a shout out to Rankin Bass holiday / Christmas specials. And another favorite thing, an honorable mention, going into the parking lots, because in snow days things would just shut down after Mass, because the church is always open. We would my dad driving, we would go and do donuts in the hills and the department store parking lots, because they were empty, and the snow plows would come in, all the snow would be pushed up on the side, and you would just do your donuts. Dad just hit the brake, spin out, you kind of ease your way into the big snow drifts, go out and do it again. You got 3 boys in the car. Mom enjoyed it too. So doing the donuts in the parking lots with Dad.
Shout out to Pops for doing it right. That's a good dad right there.
Hit that slam and pull that parking brake. Bunch of 360s. Good times. Shout out to Pops Pravosnik. Good times. But my number one, I'm going to dovetailing a little bit with what Jim said with snow days. Growing up in the Midwest, and just very quickly with snow days, to show you like a difference in topography and geography. When I drove out to California, when I moved from Wisconsin to California back in '96, I was driving with another guy from he went to high school in Toledo, so he understood. We understood snow days, and it would have to be at least a foot of snow on the ground before they would cancel classes. And as we're driving through St. Louis, Missouri, that area where it was nighttime, so we're hearing we have snow. We're calling for 1 to 2 inches, and here are your snow your school closings. Like, they're closing school for 2 inches of snow. 2 inches? Bullshit. But again, it depends on where you're from, and that part of the world, they don't understand snow the way you do when you grow up on the shores of Lake Erie and you get dumped on a lot. 15-foot snow drifts were fairly regular. And a quick shout out, another honorable mention to the winter of '76. Awesome times. And that leads me into my number one, building snow forts and having snowball fights.
Oh, wow.
Again, I'm the oldest of 3 boys, and it was great having Michael, my 2-year younger brother. We either battle against each other, or we get the kids from the neighborhood over, and we build our snow forts. We had the perfect. I know that my dad hates. Well, he was the oldest of 3 boys too. He understood, so that's probably why he begrudgingly allowed it. We didn't break any. Well, I broke a couple of windows, but no, if you build it, and we had a creek next to us as well. And a shout out to Stephen Dulzer very quickly, because we would practice our going to you, Marty, with the football. We practice catching the sideline passes, and if you didn't catch it, you went into the creek, and sometimes you got wet, sometimes you didn't. Bring us back to putting your feet into the sandwich bags, keep it a little warmer, drier.
Man, your childhood is awesome.
One side of the creek, we'd have someone would build up a fort on the other side. It was just good times. Snowball fights and snow forts. That is definitely my number one for what I love about winter. It's a nostalgic one, but that's what it's like being a kid growing up in Ohio.
That sounds amazing. What a childhood. I mean, I loved all the good weather I was blessed with my whole life growing up, but that sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, being a kid, it was a good time. It was a good time. Good place to grow. Again, Ohio, Pennsylvania, great places to grow up. But get out and come here. Come to Phoenix. Come to Arizona. Or
a good place.
To Arizona. I
It's a
saw
little
people
harder when you're an adult.
For those of you in the back who were watching Marty earlier, there's people on the river right now in kayaks. And
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Really? I didn't see them.
It's middle of January when we're recording this. So yes, that's a winter love. But now we're going to flip the script and we're going to talk about the things that we do not like about the winter. And I mean, Marty, we're going to go to you first, but it's kind of, being a Southern Californian and Arizona resident for most of your life. What is there anything that you truly hate about winter, and what would it be?
Well, yeah, there is. But an honorable mention on that one is a shout out to my cold weather brethren on two wheels. Two wheels. Can't really. There we go. Two wheel. There you go. Keep the rubber side down. I know it sucks for you guys having to not ride all winter. I don't have to suffer that, but shout out to them. I feel their pain. But my thing, my pet peeve about winter, the thing that I dislike, and I'm going to reveal it here. I've been sitting here, pretending everything was fine. Meanwhile, it's 58 degrees. I'm in a t-shirt. The wind is blowing right in my face. It is not warm here. That was all make-believe. As you can see, there's no boats. There's nothing in the docks here. It is cold. Nobody's here. So don't like winter. The thing I hate is I can't take the boat out. I can't go have fun on my boat. I have to just let it sit there in the driveway and do nothing. It's a real bummer, let me tell you, especially when I'm here. Man. Anyway, yeah, it's chilly, especially being in a t-shirt. As you can see, the flag flipping and the water is rippling. I was pretending this whole time I'm pretty cold right now.
Marty, like I've been sure Marty, the tough guy, but he's toughing it through for the sake of from wintertime illusion here on all of
Yes, it was the illusion.
The illusion. All right, well, Jim, another raised in California, but living where you are now. What is your number one pet peeve or dislike about winter? And any shout out honorable mentions you might have.
I'm going to start with a couple honorable mentions. One is the bane of my existence around here this time of year is slippery roads. I know I threw some shade at people that don't want to leave their house when it gets snowy around here, but I have experienced how it feels for your car to slip and slide on a hill and on an icy road, and it is not fun. So it can make life difficult and a little spooky. And then I'm going to also mention basically any kind of situation where I have to keep my balance, which I'm not great at. So walking on slippery sidewalks, not a lot of fun. Ice skating, tried that a couple of times. I was actually pretty good at roller skating as a kid, but ice skating is a whole different animal when it comes to trying to stay up on your feet, and it's tough. And so falling on the ice is pretty common doing that. Marty mentioned snowboarding. I tip my hat to anybody who enjoys or is good at snowboarding. I tried it once up at Heavenly, and what didn't go great for me. I think it was Eddie Izzard who said there's only two positions in snowboarding: looking cool and dead. And for me it was mostly the latter. So snowboarding was never really for me. So just a lot of things that involve keeping balance and staying up, and I'm not great at those things when it gets icy. So those are not my favorite things. But the one I actually have to list as my pet peeve is brown slush on the road. I really don't like it. I lived in Spokane. Brown slush is a fact of life there. You have long winters, and the slush just doesn't leave. It sticks around sometimes for months. I think one year we had brown slush for something like 9 months in a row, and I was so sick of it. And it's just when that snow mixes with the dirt and just turns into this obnoxious slush that's everywhere, and you feel like you're driving through mud all the time. Something about that. It's not just that it's chilly and occasionally slippery, but something about it just has an effect on your mood when every time you have to drive anywhere, you're going through these piles of brown slush, and it just makes for. I'm one of those people that really enjoys driving. Like I'll drive anywhere just for the fun of it, but that really dampens the mood, is having to drive through all this slush all the time and stomp through it and get your legs wet, all that stuff. So brown slush is just one of those things. It just became, after all those years of living with it, it became a pet peeve of mine. And so it's one of those things. I can't wait for the snow to go away after a couple of days. Slippery snow and ice are I don't like them, but they're very temporary conditions. They're usually gone after a week or so. But that brown sludge that sticks around just gets on my nerves because it won't go away. So that's my pick.
I will second that. But I'll get to an adjunct to that as my number one in a second. But I do want to give a quick honorable mention. It was mentioned on the last show, so I won't dwell on it. But wind chill. Not a fan of wind chill. If it is a temperature, just say it's at temperature. Don't tell me it's 20 degrees and feels like -12. Just it's -12. That's it. So wind chill, suck it. But my number one is what Jim mentioned as one of his honorable mentions, and it is driving in the snow. And as much fun as doing those donuts in the parking lot were, that's a controlled environment. You get out on the roads, and I will never forget the day. I mean, I was in a couple of fairly bad car accidents when I was a kid, and how I escaped on this one is beyond me. But driving back from went to the basketball game, high school game, no snow on the ground, but during the course of the game, at least a foot, maybe a foot and a half fell in a 2 to 3 hour time span. Driving home, the roads were barely plowed at this time. And I'm driving east on, I believe it was Alexis Avenue in Toledo / Sylvania. And I hit a patch and I did a complete 360. And thank God, and I drifted a little bit to the middle, to the median. Awesome. And thank God there was nobody coming west. I'm sorry, I was heading west. Nobody was coming east on that road. I'm going through flashbacks. I'm having another car accident. I did nothing wrong on this one. It's like, but you hit a patch of black ice, and it's just like went complete. And then I just stopped. Deep breath, move on. But that is a fact of life, and it's scary. But my dad can drive. He's grew up in Pennsylvania. That guy, well, it doesn't matter what's on the ground. It doesn't affect him. But me, freaks me out. I do not like driving in inclement weather known as snow. And another part of that, a cousin to brown slush are cinders that they throw down with salt to help melt the ice. And you drag those cinders into your car, and they're still there in the middle of June and July. You just can't get rid of those damn things. They stick around. So that is my biggest pet peeve. What I hate about the wintertime, driving in snow and tracking in that slush, sludge, and the cinder. Don't like it.
That's funny. Your old man reminds me of a Joe Rogan bit. He said that a car comes sliding through the intersection spinning, and I look at the guy and he's taking a sip of his coffee as he's spinning. He's straightening out there, went about his way. No big deal.
That's my dad. I'm telling you that. I got into a car accident one time, and I'm shaking. It was a bad car accident driving back from college one year, and my parents had to come down in a couple hour drive to pick me up and drive me home. And the bad snowstorm had continued. That's why I got into the accident. And Dad going at least 65, 70 miles an hour, and you barely had a lane open. And I just closed my eyes and went to sleep. I just couldn't deal with, like, am I going to get into another accident? But my dad, to his credit, I think only in the last 2-3 years of his life has he gotten into an accident. The guy was a perfect track record for almost 70 years of driving.
Yeah,
he could pull it off.
Guy knows what he's doing. You can be that stoic when you know what you're doing.
And you think back to the 60s and 70s. I'm sure my dad had a beer in his hand while he was learning all this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man! Well, there you have it, folks. There is our list of our Threefer of winter wonders, and our plus one of just wasn't so wonderful. But I dig wearing sweaters. I love wearing the Ushanka. Jim's got that beauty too. Marty is toughing it through the cold, the wisping winds coming off of the river there at Lake Havasu. But
yeah, wind chill is a thing. Before this wind kicked up, I wasn't so cold. It's a damn thing. And this is not an electronic backdrop.
Look out!
This is not a backdrop computer generated. I'm actually here.
The fabulous London Bridge in Havasu, rocket. But just before we go, I want to thank everybody again. I forgot to do it at the top of the show. We jumped right in with the Threefer, but we have exploded. Thanks to all of you viewers and listeners. This January 2025 is blowing up beyond belief. We humbly thank you. Would not be possible without everyone helping make this show grow. And it's just going to keep getting better, folks. We are going to keep on bringing you great content. Great guests are on the way. and more music, more Threefers, more entertainment, more books, more projects. And we thank you here on All Over the Place for listening and or watching. Take care, folks, and we'll be back real soon on All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.
Bye-bye.
All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.